What is theory? So, the most basic approach to theory that we can take is just that a theory is an idea or explanation, right, for, let's say, human biology or human behavior that develops out of our methods that are research, within the science and humanities. We're thinking about theory beyond anthropology. And it's an important way, right, that each of the sciences and humanities is adding to the kind of general knowledge of humanity. So, theory can also be said to be the study of these ideas and explanations. So, this is the second sense of theory. On the one hand, it's the body of ideas and explanations. And on the other hand, it's the study of those ideas and explanations. Basic approach to theory would include both of those kinds of components. We can also add a historical approach to theory. So there is not one theory. There are many, many different theories in the world, incommensurable theories that are really not even comparable. And there is no single, complete, comprehensive theory of anything. It's a very discontinuous, chronological entity. So we have changes through time of topics, questions, assumptions, methods, and evidence about biology and behavior. So this kind of addition to a basic understanding of theory is that, rather than just some idea or explanation that develops out of methods, research on reality, it's also a historical artifact. It's woven within history itself. Really, emphasis has been on the empirical nature of theory, that is, ideas and explanations' relationship to the rest of the world. The historian of science Thomas Kuhn, he argued that various forms of social relationships between people, and historical conditions give rise to different kinds of questions and answers in scientific practice, rather than simply accumulative, sort of one after the other, accumulating kind of new knowledge, this older understanding of how science developed. Kuhn drew our attention to a very human process of scientific knowledge production. That is, scientists are humans, and as they are creating scientific knowledge, their relationships and the historical conditions in which they work allow for particular scientific questions to be explored. So if we look at kind of Kuhn's basic model, a paradigm includes a group of scientists who are working on particular kinds of problems together. They share a range of different concepts and categories. They share a range of facts and theories, a range of hypotheses. They have various kinds of methods and equipment to explore those kinds of questions, operations of science. Scientists kind of stay within the paradigm. They stay within the paradigm, and they are puzzle solving the kinds of puzzles that the paradigm allows. Scientific development proceeds along with this kind of puzzle solving with this particular group of people, with their theories and their methods and equipment and so on. But what Kuhn says, and this has been developed quite a bit since Kuhn, is that the world, sort of ontologically or metaphysically, is far more complex than any one particular scientific knowledge can represent it. So he uses the term anomalies because in any kind of normal science, there's going to be anomalies that are created in data sets through research that simply don't fit the paradigm, right? They don't fit the existing set of facts or the existing set of theories. They don't relate well, right, to the particular kinds of methods or equipment that's being used and so on. And so anomalies are important because they show the kind of limitations of the existing paradigm. Scientists will bracket out or put to the side the anomalies that they're discovered. Why is that? Well, that's because they are concerned really more with the paradigm, right? And with their normal scientific practice about the puzzles that the paradigm can solve and will solve and so on. And so extraordinary science is when those anomalies, they are being observed, let's say once and observed twice and observed 3 times, and someone, a particular scientist in this particular group, potentially a scientist outside the group, begins to work on those anomalies in a way that's extraordinary. Particularly when we're thinking about the normal science. And by noting the anomalies, this particular extraordinary science may start to develop a new paradigm, a new group of people, a new set of facts, a new theory, a new set of methods and equipment and so on for its exploration. This is a fundamentally social process. So there's lots of evidence of you have a particular scientist that will note an anomaly, but if the historical conditions beyond science, right, if the sets of social relationships beyond just the empirical data are antithetical to the development of a new paradigm, then you can have what's called a failed revolution. But under other historical conditions, under different sets of social relationships, well, the anomalies can kind of break through. You can have some extraordinary science done that creates a new paradigm, as I said, with the new theories and new methods and so on. And increasingly, you'll get defection, right, from the old paradigm to the new paradigm. And so in the social history of science is where we move beyond the kind of what you might think of as epistemological, sense perception, logical reasoning, the kinds of dimensions of scientific practice that are idealized and romanticized. And you start to think about that context in which scientists are thinking, the context in which scientists are working, the context in which scientists decide to pursue a new paradigm. The knowledge of anthropologists, like other sciences, they do change, right, as society changes. It's very, very clear. And social conflicts outside of anthropology shape anthropological debate and development. And it was with Boas, right, that you have extraordinary science in Kuhnian model, where you have a real shift to a new paradigm, a new set of social relationships, new place, if you will, the university. You have new theories and ideas that come out of that, right? The critique of U.S. discrimination. We can see that anthropological ideas can either support existing social relationships, whether they be gender-based, class-based, race-based, ethnic-based, or they can criticize them, contextualize anthropologists, their social relationships in the broader society, and look at this historically, right? How does an anthropologist fit into a society, and how do their ideas either challenge existing social relationships, right, or support and undergird them? Social aspects of science that's key to understanding its development. So if we return back to the Kuhnian model here, then we would have, let's say, the social Darwinian paradigm, right? It allows for the formulation of all kinds of different questions and research projects. It allows for the development of hypotheses. It allows for the development of data collection and so on. And in normal science, right, the paradigm is not questioned. The paradigm is sort of invisible to the operators, right, as they're involved in the normal scientific workings of the paradigm. In this model, if you think of somebody like Franz Boas as an extraordinary scientist, as somebody who is Jewish, who's immigrating from Germany right before the rise of Nazism, huge nationalist period. He comes to the United States, he's confronting huge discrimination against migrants, immigrants, and so on. He sees the enslavement of African Americans and the struggle of a
of the period of Reconstruction and post-slavery. He sees, if you can imagine, 1890, the massacre at Wounded Knee. So he would have, had access to things like that in the newspaper. He's seeing tons of anomalies that challenge the practice of anthropology as he knew it. And that led him to do something we could call extraordinary science. He brings people together that had never been brought together before. He develops theories and ways of thinking about anthropology that had never been there before. And this isn't just because Franz Boas was a very intelligent man. We have to understand people's relationships, their broader relationships to society, but we also have to understand those historical conditions